Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. I'm attorney Megan Pastrana, and I'm really happy to be with all of you here today. I see we have a lot of individuals joining us live with some really great questions, so that's fantastic. I look forward to diving into all of those. Before we go through, or I go through questions, I always like to start with asking all of you, where are you at in the world? Where are you at in your immigration journey? And most importantly, how are you doing? So I know that the immigration process can be nothing short of overwhelming. So I always like to do that check in. And if you are watching this on the replay, I know some individuals aren't able to join live. And so if you are watching on the replay, just do a hashtag replay. And if it feels aligned for you, let us all know, where are you at in the world? Where are you at in your immigration journey? And how are you doing? All right. Okay. And so I see that there's a lot of individuals here that are joining us. I wanted to see if anybody had answered those questions about where you're at in the world, where you're at in your immigration journey, and how are you doing? All right. Let's see who. Hello. It's great to have you with us. All right. And it looks like we have some really great updates too, some individuals who have their interviews. So let's go ahead and just dive into the questions then. Keep them coming. Perfect. There we go. Nashville, you're doing well. Happy to hear it. You're in Mississippi. Great to have you with us. Thanks for being here today. Relax and take notes. I like that. All right. And you're in Miami, Florida. Great to have you here also. Okay. And Jane, you say that you have your husband's green card interview coming up and your anxiety level is sky high. Yes, I know the interview can be so exciting to finally receive that interview date. And then it does come with a level of anxiety. It's the unknown. You've waited for this for so long. But be sure to take care of yourself. I don't know what kind of self-care practices you have. Meditation is helpful, going on walks, making sure you're doing what you can to bring that anxiety level down so you can go into that interview with as much confidence as possible. So if you have been already through your immigration interview and have tips on how to navigate those emotions that arise for Jane, feel free to share those in the comments. I'm sure she'd appreciate that. But we are celebrating the interview being scheduled. That's great. All right. Hello from New York. Great to have you with us, Ted. Thanks for being here. All right. And so you're in Alabama and you're currently gathering items to start the fiancé visa process. That's exciting. Jane, you're very welcome. We're all celebrating you, and we know that those feelings are a normal part of the process, though. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into questions here. If you're just now joining us, welcome. We're really excited to have you. Immigration for Couples. We are a firm dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and world. As you'll see on the ticker below, immigrationforcouples.com is our website. And on our website, we have a ton of free resources. Yes, they are free resources. And there's a resource on how to prove your relationship is real. So that book that I have behind me, I always do that. The book that I have behind me there, Navigating Love and Immigration, you can download a free chapter of that book, the chapter about relationship evidence and how to prove your love is real. There's a webinar if you're just starting out in your journey, and lots of other downloadable charts that go over the different processes that are available to couples. So you'll want to check that out. Ria will throw that in the comments for you all too. All right. Yay, and good afternoon to you as well. You just got your interview date for November 13th. That is exciting. Congratulations. So I am streaming this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram here. So I have questions coming from a lot of different directions, and I answer the questions in the order that I receive them, but just know that they're coming from a lot of different places. I'll do my best to get through as many questions as I can here today. All right. Okay, so this is good news. So you have your petition for your I-129F has been approved. Congratulations. That's really exciting news. And then you're wanting to understand what comes next and what are some of the things that happen now that that petition is approved. And it sounds like you're also saying that you're waiting for that case number and that your petition will be expiring November 21st and you haven't received a case number. Is that okay? All right. So that's a big question. A lot of moving parts here. So once the I-129F petition has been approved. That's the very first step of the fiance visa process. Once that petition is approved, that's immigration saying, yes, you meet the basic requirements, and you are proving that you have a real relationship based on love. That's immigration giving their first sign off to move your case on to the visa phase. So the approved petition is not the fiance visa yet. There are still more steps to come, but an approved petition is a really great sign. That's a big step in the process to get that petition approved. Once it's approved, your case will then be forwarded from USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. It will then be forwarded on to the NVC, the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center's job in your case is to assign the case a case number. So that's what you're talking about here. And then after assigning the case number, then they will forward that petition on to the correct U.S. embassy or consulate abroad, wherever the immigrant beneficiary is living. Now, you're right. That petition will have a 4-month validity. So when you get your approval notice for your petition, it will say that it's only valid, it's only good for 4 months. Unfortunately, well, let me back up. Immigration had originally put that 4-month time limit on the petition because they wanted people who were going through the process to take action and keep the case moving forward. So I've been practicing immigration law for a long time now, and I remember that we would get approvals for petitions in a matter of months, and the case would be forwarded quickly, and we would get everything done in the 4 months. Now, though, immigration is taking a long time to assign your case number through the National Visa Center and transfer it on to the embassy. So is it okay that you haven't received a case number? Well, no, it's frustrating. You want to be able to move along, but you're waiting on immigration. But it is normal that immigration will take a while, sometimes several months, to give you that case number and forward your case to the embassy. Okay, so that is normal. You can reach out to the National Visa Center. You can ask for updates, and then you will have to, when you get to your interview, ask for that petition validity to be extended. All right. And then in terms of, what's going to be needed for the next step in the process, you're definitely going to have to prove your relationship again. You're going to need to have financial documents from the U.S. citizen petitioner, tax returns, income information, and the list goes on. And then it will really depend on your case, and also the relationship history, where their prior marriages. It'll depend on your immigration history, and it will depend on the country where your interview happened. Some countries have unique requirements, like the Philippines. They have additional documents that are needed: a certificate of non-marriage, or in a spouse visa case, a certificate of marriage that's not required in other countries. So what documents you need is going to depend on those specific details. And so you would need to really check immigration requirements and the National Visa Center website to understand what will be needed in your case. But that's an overview of what happens next. All right. So let me see. Okay. And it looks like you're asking your questions again. And so I did just go over them. So I'm sure you saw that. I think you were asking right before I got started with your question. So for all of you who are just now joining us, let us know, where are you at in the world? Where are you at in your immigration journey? And how are you doing? If you all have questions, please just ask them once. I'll do my best to get through as many questions as I can today. I go through them in the order that I receive them. And then if you're watching on the replay, do a hashtag replay, and let me know what your questions are and where you're at in your immigration journey. All right, Damien. So you finally got the interview for adjustment of status. 3 weeks. Let me see if I understand. Okay, so it sounds like you received your interview for your green card. Congratulations, that's really exciting. I know you have been waiting for a while. I know you had mentioned in prior lives you were waiting for the work permit too. So this is even better. That means you're getting closer to that, to the green card, right? And Damien, you're very welcome. I appreciate that, and yeah, it's my pleasure. So in terms of what you need to take to the interview, affidavits from friends and family, they're really great. And it's important to understand that immigration they have a list of what they consider the strongest evidence and the weakest evidence. Weaker evidence is actually letters of support from friends and family and photos. That doesn't mean you don't include them. It just means you understand that they're important to have but they're not going to be the most important evidence for the officer to make a decision. So there's other categories of evidence that are really important, especially in adjustment of status case. Do you have children together? Finances, joint finances is a big one with adjustment of status. Do you have joint bank accounts that you're actively using? You're both putting money in, joint credit cards, all kinds of joint financial documents. Those are all really important too. So that's great. You're thinking about, hey, I have my interview and I need to take more evidence. That's great. You're thinking about that. And you need to make sure you're taking evidence from all the categories, not just the letters of support. All right. And also be careful. I always tell people letters of support from friends or family are awesome, but be careful in submitting those. Read through what your friends and family write. Make sure the information is correct. Dates are always a big one. They definitely went to your wedding, right? But maybe they have the wrong day. Maybe they had it in their mind. It was a different day, or maybe they just, had a typo. When you're submitting affidavits, it's really important to review through those and make sure there's not contradictory information. So it's great you're thinking about getting those, but you do need other categories of evidence as well. In terms of uploading evidence before the interview, some USCIS offices are requiring that you upload before the interview. Others are not. And it'll really depend. It also depends on your USCIS account. We've had some clients who their USCIS account, it just will not allow them to upload evidence. So you take it to the interview. But when you received your interview notice, pay attention to your email, pay attention to the instructions. And if they are specifically asking that you upload that evidence before the interview, then you should follow those instructions. You want to make sure that officer is happy with you on the day of your interview. All right. Thanks for the question and good luck with your interview. Let us know how it goes. If you feel like you'd like to let us know that, we'll all be celebrating you and hoping that you have a really good outcome. Okay. All right. So you're wanting to know if the U.S. Embassy will accept an original copy of judgment for divorce decree in place of the original divorce certificate. So when you have your U.S. Embassy or U.S. consulate interview for your fiance visa, if there was a prior divorce, you do need to bring the correct divorce documentation. Sometimes some divorce documentation is two different documents. Others, they'll just be a divorce decree. If you have an original version of that decree, usually it will have some kind of seal. Sometimes it's a stamp, sometimes it's raised. Sometimes there's, like an ink signature that's clear that it's an official original document, or alternatively a certified copy. So most courts, you can go to the court and ask for a certified copy of a divorce decree. So the U.S. Embassy requires that document be certified. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but yes, immigration does require a certified version or an original version. All right. You're very welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. All right. Next in the queue. Okay, so you're Taddy from Zimbabwe living in South Africa, and you filed in July of 2025. You're feeling a bit down as you miss your fiance so much, and being apart is tough. Oh, but thank God for his grace to wait it out with us. Okay. Yes, well, that's great that you have that petition filed. I know sometimes the wait can feel daunting. I speak from personal experience, having gone through the process with my husband. I know that the wait is hard. And I also speak from personal experience when I say, having gone through that immigration process, it will really build your individual resiliency and your resiliency in your union and as a couple. Going through the immigration process, it's really a parallel to life itself. You're going to have some struggles and some challenges and some really great times. And that's just life. You're going to take it all of it, and you're going to get through it, and you're going to come out changed. You're going to grow and evolve. And so from going through that process, my husband and I are like, we can go through anything. It's very stressful, right? But focus on the fact that, you filed in July and now you're one day closer. Every day you're one day closer, and really find ways to connect with one another. And I know you probably are, video calls and messaging and sending each other packages. That was always fun. We enjoyed, sending each other packages. And then when we were, our gifts or notes, love notes, cards. And then when we are together or we're together, leaving notes around the house and things like that for the other person to find. You can find creative ways to really build your connection and union, even if you're not in the same physical location all the time. So hang in there. All right. Let's see. I'm sure others have comments on that, as well. I'm for all of you who are going through the immigration process, I'm sure you have some advice to share as well. And if you do, feel free to throw that in the comments for Toddy. All right. And so you are hearing of um, talk of a looming government shutdown. How does this impact the work at USCIS? Will things slow down? So USCIS is fee funded. So it's different than other departments in the government and in immigration. USCIS is fee funded. Applicants pay fees and for their applications to be reviewed and for the administrative work. So typically government shutdowns are not going to have a direct impact on USCIS. And those applications will continue to be able to continue to process because it is a fee funded organization. So some good news in that. And like I said, I've been doing immigration for many, many, many years. There's always these talks, right, of looming government shutdowns. We will get, we'll get through it. Things always work themselves out. And then the good news, for those of you who are going through a USCIS based case, which is, all marriage based cases, they are fee funded. So there's you're shielded from the impacts of the looming government shutdown. All right. So, Melissa, good morning to you as well. Your Algerian fiance, you both submitted your petition November of 2024. You received that approval notice July. And it's been 9 weeks and you still haven't received any correspondence. Well, first of all, congratulations on getting the petition approved. That's really exciting. And it sounds like the very first question that I received in today's show of, hey, we haven't gotten our case number from the National Visa Center. So yes, unfortunately, it can take several months, sometimes many months for that case to be assigned a case number by the National Visa Center and for it to be transferred on. Typically, the notice will say that around the 60-day mark, you can reach out to the National Visa Center. You can always do that and say, hey, how are things going? Do you have a case number for me yet? And you can kind of just keep tabs on it and checking in with them. But yes, you do need to be prepared, unfortunately, for a wait on that transfer process. You're getting closer, though. So best of luck on your immigration journey. Oh, yep. And that was the other part of your question, what I recommend. Yep. It is normal and normal to have that long wait and then checking in with the National Visa Center. Okay. So you are saying you haven't started your immigration journey yet, and you're wanting to know about online marriages. Are they valid for a spouse visa? So the online Utah, the virtual marriage, it's a really great option. We have a lot of couples that use it. And it's important to understand the additional requirements that come with the online virtual marriage. If you're going through that process, you need to make sure you have a licensed officiant, that you are in compliance with all of the rules surrounding that virtual marriage to make sure it is a legally binding marriage. That's first and foremost. Second of all, online marriages, they are great. And it doesn't just mean that if you're in two different countries that you can both get married online and then file the spouse visa. No, what we typically recommend for individuals who are thinking of this online marriage is that it is best to be in the same physical location. Virtual marriages are something that are relatively new. They came into effect right before COVID. Really, what a blessing that happened right before COVID, because that helped a lot of individuals. But it's something really new that really didn't exist at the time a lot of immigration laws were written, especially regarding the spouse visa. And so really hadn't been taken into consideration in immigration laws how to handle virtual marriages. So a lot of immigration officers look at a virtual marriage and see it as what they call a proxy marriage. So I've had lots of conversations with immigration officers about this. I disagree with that. And knowing that immigration is still kind of unsure of what to do with these virtual marriages, it is possible to get a spouse visa approved. We've had many clients that have gone through the virtual marriage and gotten their case approved. And we're aware that immigration isn't, entirely sure what to do with the virtual marriages and might treat it as a proxy marriage. A proxy marriage is not the virtual marriage, but a proxy marriage is when you have someone stand in for you to be able to get married. And so if immigration treats it as a proxy marriage, then they expect that there's additional proof after that marriage that you were physically together and that you can prove that consummation requirement, which is essentially that you're in each other's physical presence for the marriage and right after the marriage. So yes, it's possible. Online marriages can definitely be valid And you just need to be aware that there are some, additional considerations when going through the virtual process that you should be aware of, so you don't run into any issues with your case. Because immigration, they will take your application, they will take your fee, they will wait many, many months to get around to reviewing it, and then you won't find out until over a year later whether or not immigration would consider that marriage as legally valid. So you just want to make sure, if you're thinking about that online marriage, do get legal help with the process, but it is a valid option. All right. All right. So right now you say you're filling out the application and you're working on getting proof of the relationship. Excellent. So definitely want to check out that free resource on our website, then that chapter from the book. And really the entire book will be helpful to you, but there's a lot of resources on our free resource center if you're just starting out. Okay. Okay, so Jim, the big question. So I was taking a moment to read it before I pull it up because it's the kind of question that covers me up here. So you told me last time, a couple of weeks ago, that you found your fiance visa application, um, and you realized that you left some things out of it. You only put down one of your ex-wives, and there was another one. You didn't realize they wanted all of them, and that you might have left out the two statements. Um, should I tell you what you should do? Okay. So first of all, yes, they definitely want all of, they're asking about prior marriages. You definitely need to disclose all of those details, or you're going to run into issues with your immigration case. Immigration can consider that you're trying to lie or withhold information. So you definitely want to make sure you're honest. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. You realized after the fact, hey, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. So you definitely need to supplement your application. You need to supplement your application to correct those errors and then submit anything that was missing, like those statements. Yes, those are definitely required, and you will get a request for evidence. You can supplement by sending to the immigration office, the service center where the case is pending. They're not always great at the mailroom with getting that matched up to your file. So you shouldn't anticipate the possibility of getting a request for evidence. So first and foremost, making sure you are responding and supplementing that application so it is accurate. Second of all, really consider, and I'm not just saying this because I'm an immigration attorney, really consider having legal help, hiring an expert who works in immigration, especially immigration and for couples, that can be your guide on this journey, so you can leverage their expertise and make sure your application is being done 100%, accurate, so you can avoid those prolonged delays from requests for evidence, or in a worst case situation, a denial, right? Which I know we don't want, but that would be my advice. Make sure you at a minimum supplement your application, and two, think about hiring an expert to be in your corner. Okay. Oh, and you said your daughter spells her name just like mine. Yeah, there's a lot of different spellings of the Megan name. Some of them add an H and things like that. So yeah, small world that we have the same name. All right. And so I know you were just repeating your question, but I got it, and hopefully that helps give you some clarity there. Okay. Okay. So Jim, and it looks like maybe you were having some trouble hearing me on my response. So do know that this entire show is recorded, and then you'll be able to go to the show after and watch the replay, and you'll be able to fast forward to like minute 20-ish or a little bit before, and you'll be able to hear my response to that question. All right. I just want to get on to doing as many questions as I can from everybody in the audience. But that's the good thing about the replay. Okay, you're wanting to know guidance on how to best prepare for your interview. Um, the do's and the don'ts. So the do's, and I have several videos on the YouTube channel as well that you can check out, that I actually go over quite a bit of information about preparing for the interview, some common interview questions and things like that. And so Ria can throw that in the comments. Ria, there's a couple of videos on the adjustment of status interview, preparing for the interview, the do's and the don'ts and the questions. In general, though, do prepare. How do you prepare? Reviewing all of the applications, making sure all the information is correct, making sure you're committing everything to memory, going over your relationship history and your relationship timeline, and really just going through all of the evidence that was submitted as well. So do that. Do go through all of that. And then the common interview tips are, if you always be honest, even if you think that it would hurt your case, it's really, really important to be honest with immigration. Fraud and misrepresentation, withholding information can be a costly mistake. And so always be honest. I know you will be. If you don't know an answer, don't guess. Don't commit to, don't just like make something up if you don't know to appease the officer. Make sure if you don't know an answer, don't guess. That doesn't mean you can say, I don't know to every question, but if there's something that you don't recall, let them know. I don't recall that exact date. I don't recall that exact address. And last but not least, if you don't understand a question that the officer is asking you, it's important to ask for clarification. Can you tell me what that means? Can you please repeat it so you understand exactly what they're asking you? All right. And then you can also check out all of those videos that Ria just threw here in the comments for everyone. All right. You can check those out to prepare for your interview too. So hopefully that will help you. Ginger, it's great to have you with us. So you're watching from the US with your fiance. That's so exciting. I'm glad you're still together. I'm sure you're enjoying your time. Okay, so fiance visa applications do not have an online filing. They have to be filed by paper currently. So when you're filing your application, you'll want to make sure all of those requirements are together in that paper submission. Hi there. It's great to have you with us, Indira, and you're in Argentina. Hmm. Okay, this is really interesting. So you have a long pending petition. It's been 7 years. Your I-130 petition for your wife was filed by you as a US citizen. It's been pending with USCIS for 7 years. What steps can I take to enforce USCIS to issue a decision? Okay, so 7 years for an I-130 petition based on a US citizen is a really, really long time. I'm curious if you had to also file waiver applications. Sometimes there are multiple parts to a spouse visa process, and one of those parts is sometimes a waiver of forgiveness. So your I-130 may have already been approved, but then you're waiting on this waiver of forgiveness. If that's the case, unfortunately, very long wait times for waivers of forgiveness are common. Not 7 years common, but pretty close. So that would be something that I would need to know. But if it is just the I-130 pending for a long time, a very long time of 7 years, then you'll likely want to consider something called filing a mandamus action. A mandamus action is so you are actually going to be suing immigration for an unreasonable delay. There's some steps that you typically take before that. I'm sure you have, reaching out to USCIS, engaging a congressional inquiry, so reaching out to your state representatives for assistance. But then filing a mandamus action is definitely something to consider for an unreasonable delay. Travel bans, no real updates there. They're still in place. They are not applicable though to spouse visa cases. It really has had a bigger impact in the world of couples on fiance visa cases. Can your previous denials impact your spouse visa process? And is it possible to request an expedite process because of your partner's medical condition? Okay, so one question at a time. I'll start with the first one. Will previous visa denials impact the CR1 process? They can. They can. The denials are something we always look at with the couples that we represent. We want to understand always, when was that denial? What case was that denial? Why was the case denied? What were the steps taken after? Some denials result in a person some denials are the result of a person being ineligible for the visa, and that there is a waiver of forgiveness that's needed. If that's the case, then that would be part of this new process if you were wanting to file, another visa application. It depends on the type of visa, though. Is it a tourist visa that was denied, right? Tourist visas are non-immigrant visas. They're for a short visit to the US, and it's very common that those are denied, but it still does matter what was the reason that it was denied, okay? So it can. The short answer is it can have an impact. It doesn't mean that your spouse visa is going to be denied, but it is definitely a consideration and something that could impact the case and the case strategy. Whether or not it's possible to try to expedite your process based on a medical condition on your in your partner's medical condition, it is, it is possible. Expedite requests are a tool. They're a request that a person can make if there are urgent humanitarian reasons or other really urgent reasons that the case needs to be expedited. Expedites are difficult to get approved. The reason being is that immigration's position is, hey, we have all these people, all these people waiting in a line. And if we expedite your case, we're literally taking you out of that line and you're skipping a lot of individuals whose case won't be reviewed. So they really look at these expedite requests very carefully. And that's why a lot of them are not approved. We've definitely, here at Immigration for Couples, we have definitely had many expedite cases approved. And for medical reasons. It really depends, though, on the specifics of the expedite. You have to show immigration, hey, this is the urgent reason, and this is why our case being approved and expedited is going to help alleviate this urgent concern, be it medical or a humanitarian reason or something else. Okay, so it's both. For both of your questions, there's possibilities there, but it's going to largely depend on the specifics. So if you have an immigration attorney, speak with him or her about the strategy for your case and the viability. Oh, Jose, that's so great. I know you were waiting so long, so your interview's just around the corner. You're anxious and nervous. The same neural pathways in the brain that send us signals to tell us we're scared or anxious or nervous are also the same ones that send us signals for excitement. So think of it as also the excitement that you're coming to a conclusion on your immigration journey, that soon you're going to, have this approval and be able to be together. So yes, it's absolutely normal to feel anxious and nervous, but I'm sure you also feel excited to be at this juncture in your immigration process. Congratulations, sending you prayers and positive vibes. Hopefully you have a good, positive decision soon. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more questions and then I need to jet. Oh, yeah, Jane, that's a good question. I agree. You've heard stories about immigration officers who do the interview, that they can be intimidating. Is it really necessary for them to be intimidating? How does that help anyone? Good question. Good question. It has some of it has to do with officer personality. Some of it is, training. They're wanting to see if they can rattle the person and get them to admit to things or get caught off guard. But it's a good question. I've sat in thousands of immigration interviews and I've seen all kinds of officer personalities, and I prepare my clients for best and worst case scenario. So they can be prepared for any kind of officer personality, including an intimidating one. But I agree. Is that necessarily productive? Probably not. All right. Genesis, you're wanting to know, is the unsolicited evidence tab worth using? You're at the 11-month mark and you haven't. Yeah, I mean, it's great that they have that tab and that you can refresh your evidence and submit more. Oftentimes now when the adjustment interview is scheduled, many offices are asking you at that time, go in and upload evidence. Sometimes they're asking for other documents to be uploaded as well. So you could just wait until that happens. And yeah, definitely before your interview, you can upload that evidence. You could do it now. It's really, I mean, there's really no benefit either way, or doing it now necessarily. It would be probably more beneficial to collect all of your evidence and then just submit it all at once, just so your file is a little bit more clean in terms of that submission. And having it done, right before the interview when prompted is probably best, but it doesn't hurt. You could definitely upload it now if you feel like you're a little antsy and just want to feel productive and get that in there. So definitely, you're welcome to do that. All right. Okay, you're very welcome. My pleasure. Okay, good, Jim. I'm glad you got it this time. So good. I'm really glad you were able to hear it. And like I said, there's a replay. So if you need to go back for a refresher, you can. All right. How can you obtain the book Navigating Love and Immigration? Ria will actually give you a link here and see you're on Facebook. Ria can throw that link in there for purchasing the book. And then the website immigrationforcouples.com, you can go there and also download a free chapter. So, yay. Good morning, Ellie and Raj. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Hope all is going well. You're very welcome. All right. Good luck with your interview. Let us know how it goes. You're very welcome. All right. So there's a couple questions that I didn't get to, but we covered a lot of ground here today. So thank you all for being here and for sharing your wins and all the feelings that are coming up for you and sharing advice with each other and for all of your questions. Because if you have a question, somebody else does. So it was great being with all of you. I will be back again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Check out that free resource center. If you're watching on the replay, do a hashtag replay. I'd love to hear how things are going in your immigration journey and what your questions are. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.